Alright, if you see my last video, we're going to reblue this H&R. It's a brake action 20 gauge. Got a disassemble video, and I just showed how I used some Scotch-Brite pads and got all the rust. Horrible finish on this gun when I got it. Now, all I've done was scrub it down with these, and then I wiped it with some alcohol just to get the dust and everything off of it, all the oil. So we're going to reblue it. Now, normally I'll do this in my gun room, but I'm actually going to heat it a little bit. It's not required to heat it. On small parts, normally I would just roll across the burner of my electric stove, but this is a long barrel. I think one end's going to cool off before I get it. So Harbor Freight, they had this Drill Master. It's a dual temp gun. Had them for $8. Do it off camera because it's going to be noisy. I'm just going to heat it just a little bit across this barrel. Then we're going to apply the oxpho blue. Now in between coats, you're going to need some real fine steel wool. So I got this at Walmart. It was like $2 for a great big pack of it. So we got some cotton swabs, some patches, and some Q-tips for the small in-between parts. Now the cotton swabs I'm only going to use for the first pass, because the first pass I'm going to put a real heavy coat on it. And then we're going to let it sit for about 60 seconds and wipe it off while it's still wet. Then for the additional coats, we're just going to use these patches, put a thin layer across it and wipe it off. And then in between each coat, we're going to scrub it down with this steel wool. This is the oxpho blue cream. It's a little bit easier to work with than the liquid. I'm just using a paper plate so I don't stain the counter. I don't think the woman would like me doing it in her kitchen, but that's alright. She'll never know. The first coat you're going to want pretty thick. You're not going to want it to dry. You want it to sit for 60 seconds, and then you want to rub it off. Just going to stand it up here. You can already see it's getting darker. Trying to make it even so I don't have any dark lines in it. I'm going to let this sit about 60 seconds. It says don't allow it to dry while it sits there. You want it heavy enough to where it doesn't dry. Then you want to wipe it off in one pass to almost dry. Then you want to let it dry on its own. Got this off Amazon. I'll put the link below. You actually save about $5 getting it from the Brownells Amazon store because it saves you on shipping if you have Prime. So I'll put that Amazon link below to where you can get this, save you on shipping. So now we're going to go ahead and wipe it off. So in one pass, you want to wipe it almost dry, and then you want it to sit for the rest of it. So now in this part, it's not really going to be seen, so I can do a couple extra passes on it just to make sure I get it all. But for the majority of the barrel that you're going to be seeing, you're going to want to do it in one pass while you wipe it off. So I think it's going to stand up on its own. We're going to let this dry for about 30-40 seconds. Then we're going to go over it with some steel wool. Now we got it completely dry. If you can see that, it's got a real nice dark finish, kind of like a black blue. But it was a very heavy coat, so it's going to be uneven. So right now we're just going to go over it with some 4/0 steel wool. Again, this is really fine. It's not going to damage the finish. It's just going to burnish it, kind of lightly even it out. And anywhere while you're doing this, if you have a spot that you have bluing spilt on it, you don't want to roll this barrel back in there, because if that sits, if bluing sits on one spot of this, your finish is not going to be even. No matter how many coats you do, it's going to take you all day. So after you wipe it down with the steel wool, I'm probably going to do about 3 more coats of very fine coats just to make it even. You probably can't see it on the camera, but I can see brush strokes where some spots are lighter from the cotton swab. So next step, we're just going to use a patch. We're going to put a little bit on it, work it in so there's not one glob. Just going to go all the way across the gun. We're going to try to keep each movement smooth. That way we have a nice even coating. I'm actually going back over and wiping off any of the excess. You don't want this very thick on these coats. So now on these coats, you don't have to let it sit. So once you finish your part, you can just go ahead and wipe it off. So I'm just going to take a Q-tip between this next coat. I'm going to get up here at the tip of the barrel that I may not have had a good coat on, back here at the locking lug and around the chamber, and then right here this post that the screw goes in for your handguard, just to make sure I got all the parts even. So all these places are going to be hidden, but I still want it to look good and I want it to have good rust preventative. So I'm just going to take a clean Q-tip, dry all that, and then put another coat on it. So here we go, the final coat. We want to make sure we do everything really evenly, everything smooth. Just going to buff everything in. Want to keep everything smooth. We're going to go back and forth and buff between the lines so there's no brush strokes. Go ahead and swap pads. I'm going to start exactly where I stopped over that same line, just to make sure there's not going to be any brush strokes. So I'm just going to try to smooth up the bottom where I was rolling it on the newspapers. We're just going to wipe it dry. We're going to do one final pass with the steel wool, then we're going to wipe it down really good, and then we're going to oil it. I don't care what anybody says, oil will not take off every bluing compound. There's a lot of bluing solvents that oil will not take off. So if you don't get that last layer of bluing solvent all the way down, you wipe it down with oil, wherever that solvent is, it's still going to sit there and rust and blue. Let's come in for a close-up. I'm only halfway done, but I think I've managed to not mess up the countertop, so I shouldn't be in trouble. So here's the barrel. Real nice finish on it. It's a lot darker than I expected. I'm glad I wanted the dark. I almost bought the liquid first to do a nice heavy. Real nice finish on it. If you guys haven't seen this weapon shield yet, the owner, George Fennell, he's got his own YouTube channel. It compares it on a standard with other different oils. But this machine he uses in there, you just got to go check it out. It puts weight, and this bearing rubs on this race. And a lot of these name brand oils that we use, that I've always used, are digging into metal and actually stopping this machine at like 3.5 pounds. Weapon shield, he puts 25 pounds on it, and it just sits there and glides. No burrs, no marks, no nothing. Some amazing, amazing stuff. I'm just going to coat it down, oil it with some of this weapon shield, and we're set. Brought this beautiful thing back to life using that oxpho blue, coating it up with weapon shield. We're going to refinish that stock, and we're going to take it to the range. Thanks for watching, everybody.